I just want to thank everybody for coming here today for the resume workshop hosted by ACM and Cassie. Today, we're going to be going into what a resume should have, some couple of pointers of what you should be wary of when it comes to making a resume, and some other services that you can use to better boost your resume as well. So we're going to go ahead and start with introductions. My name is Ryan Valadez. I'm the vice president of the Cassie group here at Merced. I'm a fifth year student, and I'm going to be graduating this semester.
Hey everybody, my name is Jet. Currently a second year, also a computer science major, and I'm currently the ACM president. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for the workshop.
And hi all, I'm Paulo. I'm a fourth year CSC major. I'm the events lead for ACM, and right now my camera is being whack, so no video for me.
No worries, fellas. It's all good. So, we all came here for a reason, and it's to make our resume better. So we don't really need to ask what is a resume, but I guess the better question to ask is what goes into a resume, and specifically what goes into a computer science undergrad resume. So we're going to be covering a couple of these sections for the resume, including the header and contact information that you'll be providing, your education, your experience, your projects, skills, and other miscellaneous things that you should be providing in your resume.
All right, so let's start off with the header. So when you're applying to a resume, right, you want to keep it as professional as possible and legal. So you want to put your full name first off. It's kind of obvious, but I know like a lot of you guys know me as Jet, right? But legally, I'm called not Jet, right? I'm Jet Nell. So whenever you're applying for an internship or a job, you want to put your full name. Right? If you have a preferred nickname, they can call you that in the interview or hopefully once you land a job, right? So pretty straightforward. Put your full name. Contact information, pretty simple. Put your phone number, your email. The one thing with emails though is try to avoid using your school email. And so by school email, I mean the at ucmerced.edu one. Try to have a separate email for like your job applications and try to keep it somewhat appropriate. Um, and yeah, and so like other things you want to have in the header of your resume is or are web links. So a LinkedIn, a GitHub, or a personal website. Really anything that can show recruiters what you're able to do and what you have done, right? So I'd say definitely have a LinkedIn. If you don't have one, make one. It's pretty straightforward. Uh, a GitHub. Hopefully, all of us have a GitHub here, right? You have code that you're putting up there, and the personal website. It's kind of like optional, whether you have the time. Um, Feel free to make one. It showcases your technical ability and also just what you've done in the past. And ACM, just like a little plug, we have done a personal website projects in the past. So Cassie and ACM are more than willing to give you guys the resources if you guys are interested. Next slide. And so education, right? I mean, all of us here, I hope, are attending UC Merced. If not, welcome. But when you're applying to a resume, right, you want to put the full school name. So obviously, when I'm speaking with like Ryan or whatever, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, bro, I love the University of California, Merced, right? We always
Sick,
say like
bro.
UC Merced, right? So when you're applying, uh, when you're applying to jobs, right, there's different universities, there's so many universities, and like a recruiter, they won't know what UC stands for. It could be like at the University of Carolina or something else. So put the full name, no abbreviations. My next point is GPA. Now I know for us STEM majors, GPA is always a very controversial topic. And feel free to debate that with Ryan or whoever else you want to. But when it comes to resumes, um, put your GPA. The general rule of thumb is put your GPA if it's above a 3.0. Um, some jobs will ask for like a 3.5 or whatever, but it's pretty rare. And if you don't have a 3.0, that's fine too. The worst thing you can, not even the worst thing, what you can do is just not include it. And it's not like they're gonna dock you points or whatever. Um, and then the really big point too for your education section is make sure you have your expected graduation date and or your start date. So you might be asking yourself like, why is that important? Why didn't you have that there? Because I see a lot of people, they forget it. And so let's say, for example, you turn your resume, right? Uh, and the company recruiter is like, wow, this person's really good, right? They need to know as a recruiter what positions they're able to offer you. And most of the times, the positions they can offer you are based off your graduation date because they want to reel you in as because they need the talent, right? So if you don't have that graduation date, it just makes their life a lot harder. It slows down the process, the hiring process, and it's just easier if you just have your expected graduation date that you can refer to. Um, yeah, so the question is, if it's below 3.0, don't include, I mean, it's up to you, obviously, but my recommendation, and I think what Paulo and Ryan and I were talking about is usually like the typical norm is if it's above a 3.0, include it. If it's below, don't include it. But like don't feel bad about it either because there's always more that goes into a GPA than like your ability, right? Um, but yeah,
If you feel comfortable putting like a 2.7, 2.8, then that's still fine because some companies they look at that and they also take into factors as well, like, oh, if you're working multiple jobs, that could have been the reason why you didn't put so much effort into your classes. So if you feel confident in the GPA and hey, I've been putting all this work, yeah, I didn't get a good grade, but I had other factors, then you can put it in there. And when they ask you that question, you can explain it to them. And more than likely, some of the recruiters will like be understanding. But if you have a bit of a low GPA, it'll be better just not to include it. Just because they have a system that they can use, and if it says GPA and it says less than like 2.5, sometimes it just gets put into the rejection letter. So that's one way of cheating the system. Um, so I don't know if that answered your question, Nabir, but that would be my take on it. Awesome, great.
yeah, and I think to like wrap up the education section, include relevant coursework. So as you can see in the image uh, that Ryan's gonna hopefully put in right now, you'll see that like, and as an example, um, when you're applying to a job, right? Uh, they want to see what classes you've taken. So like I know for like new grads, they always want to see candidates that have taken like algorithm design or data structures or depending on the job, like databases, right? So um, having the courses you've taken, especially upper divs, really help you like stand out and show what you're capable of outside of all the projects and all the internships that we hopefully all have, right? Um, and I think a key, like some advice as like a first and second year, because I've been through that. Obviously, I'm a second year. Um, is when you're starting out, you're like uh, recruiters aren't gonna care that you're taking like Calc 2 as a freshman. Like, all right, cool, bro. They're gonna care about like what computer science courses you've taken, and you typically for relevant coursework, my advice is just put like upper div classes, because those are things that help you stand out, right? Because that's where like all those classes you see there, like algorithms design, databases, OOP, those are all things that are used in industry. So having those like as a section, even if it's just like a key term, can help you at least to start a conversation with a recruiter or something. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, and so up next is going to be your experience section. This is going to be official experiences only. So these are any internships you have, part-time jobs, part-time CS jobs you have, and you want to make sure they're relevant experiences. So if you're applying for like a new grad job, try to limit the amount of random part-time jobs you have on your resume and try to keep it tech-based still. You're gonna explain these experiences similarly to projects, which is up next. Yeah, so for projects, these are going to be any tech-based project that wasn't a job. So it could be a school project, could be a hackathon, or any side projects. And you're going to explain projects and your experiences using the STAR format. And that's the situation, task, action, result. Quick Google search to learn it, but it's a pretty handy format. In the projects, you're also going to link to the repo if it's available. So if you have it public on GitHub, make sure to put the link there. And again, for projects and experiences, you want the points to be consistent, mainly in the length and the verbs that you use. And you're going to list them, you're going to have them dated, and you're going to list them in reverse chronological order. So the latest is at top, the oldest is at the bottom.
All right, so talking about projects. So outside of ACM, and it's like a little key, what is it, like word from our sponsor? Not really. So outside of ACM, I'm also part of the Hack Merced organizing team. So if you guys don't know what Hack Merced is a hackathon that happens every year at Merced, but because you know the whole pandemic going on, that's changing our lives. We're not able to do the hackathon at Merced. So it's gonna be the first time we have a virtual hackathon, and that's gonna happen from March 12th to 14th. And so if you have no clue what a hackathon is, the really short explanation of it is it's a 24 to 36 hour event over the weekend where you can make a team and build a project that you're interested in. Maybe you have like this really cool video game you want to work on. Any major can come, right? I see the questions. Any major, anyone's welcome. We have different types of prizes available, so you can actually win prizes for making a really cool project. And ACM, we're gonna be sponsoring a prize category at the event. And so just like a little like between you and I, the prize is actually going to be a $125 DoorDash gift card. So, you know, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I like my DoorDash. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, if you want to build more experience, you don't feel like you have a lot of experience on your resume, this is the perfect way to build your resume and get some experience. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, you can always DM me on Zoom, or you can register now at hackmerced.com. I think someone put the link in the chat. I think Busher did. Thank you, Busher. But yeah, just like a little like small tidbit. So it's March 12th to 14th. It's coming up soon. So thank you. Next slide.
Thanks for that, Jet. So going back into the resume, when it comes to skills itself, you want to make sure it's tech-based. So you want to really show the stuff that you know. So you're going to be putting in, C++, and proficient at SQL, whether it be Firebase, Java. Those are the things you really want to stand out because a recruiter is going to go through it. And more than likely, they're going to have an automated system that shows what skills you have. And if you were to put it on your resume, it already saves them the time to really see what you have, because they put it through the system. The recruiter probably looks at your resume 3 to 5 minutes on average and then goes on to the next resume itself. So if you can kind of put that all together, it makes the recruiter's job much easier, and it also makes you stand out, but also limit on some of the soft skills as well. So of course there's other skills that we can put on there, like interpersonal communication, bilingual, stuff like that, which is great, but you want to make sure that you don't put too much of those soft skills. You want to make sure it's more tech-based, because that's really what the recruiters are looking for. So just keep that in mind when you're putting that on your skills section. And then just a couple other things you want to know when it comes to your resume. It's just, we are giving you the outline of the resume, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it exactly what we're telling you. We all have it tailored to fit whatever experiences we have. So make sure to pick and choose some of the things that you put into. Some sections that you want to include could be leadership, whether it be leadership in a project that you're in, or a club, or any other like extracurricular activities, right? Any awards or achievements you got. So for example, if you got the Dean's Award or the Chancellor Award, to put that on there. Even scholarships as well, because some scholarships are competitive. So if it shows that you were to get into these scholarships that were competitive, that just makes you even stand out anymore. And also as well, certifications. And I know it's kind of hard getting certifications. There's not really a place to look at, but there's a really good program on LinkedIn where you can go and get certified. So you can look up Java, SQL, C++. They even have like a section where you get tested on, and then you get approved by LinkedIn, showing that you know what you're talking about. So that's a great way to get certified for some of these certifications.
Yeah, and I think to add on to the certifications too, like I think someone's like a mechanical engineer in the chat. So like if you're a mechanical engineer, right, I know you can get like CAD certifications, like if you learn like SolidWorks, or even like Autodesk Inventor. So even if you get like certifications in those things, you can put them down and it looks pretty cool. Like I know when I was coming out of high school, I was certified in Autodesk Inventor. I think Busha was too or something like that. And I put on my resume, and like the recruiter was like, "Oh, Autodesk Inventor," and it's just recruiters like to get like a little like small piece of like your resume and revolve the conversation around it. So yeah, even if you're a CS major, I don't know about you guys, but CAD's pretty cool. I know Ryan here has like a whole 3D printer. Um,
I
and likes
haven't
the
gotten
CAD.
certified yet, but yeah, I really want to learn it.
So yeah, stuff like that. Even if it's like, uh, yeah, like uh, stuff like that. Even put it if you have the space, right? Um, maybe we Cassie needs to host a CAD workshop. You never know.
We can
But
definitely
yeah,
plan that.
yeah. So now like you might be thinking like, all right, this sounds cool, but like how do I actually like write stuff on my resume, right? That's like the hardest part, right? We're engineers, we don't know how to write. So when it comes to that, I say use action verbs. So I know middle school was like 15 years ago, it feels like. But basically with action verbs, you want to use these verbs crazy, right? To like kind of spice up what you're saying in your resume, right? And what Ryan was saying is these recruiters aren't gonna like pick up your resume and like just like marvel at it for like 15 minutes. It's a super quick process. So for a recruiter, they want concise information that gets to the point and shows what you specifically did for that project or job, how you were like important to that job or whatever you did. Um, so try to keep it concise and try to make it sound impactful. So like here is an example we have, right? Let's say it's like a job description that you were writing for your resume. So like the example is some of my responsibilities were doing inventory, creating purchase orders, etc. It's not bad, but you're kind of cutting yourself low right there, right? You can spice it up. You can make it sound like you actually did more. And so like the good example using action verbs is uh, I assembled and integrated an inventory system that connected multiple departments that improved productivity and creating purchase orders by 5%. So it's an example, right? You're not gonna put the copy and paste that on your resume, but you can see the difference. Like now you can revolve a conversation about that. Because if I was a recruiter and I saw the first thing, it'd be a lot harder for me to ask specifically what you did and what your impact was. Whereas in the second bullet point, I can clearly see that okay, this person they made an inventory system. How did that affect the company or the job? Well, it says here he improved the purchase orders productivity by 5%. See, it's quick and straight to the point. And as a recruiter, that's what they want. Um, and then yeah, I think one thing for me personally is like when you're writing like your experience and your projects, uh, I tend to get very repetitive as a person, and so just when you're writing, try not to sound repetitive. There's this thing called Google, and you can look up at the source. So what I did when I was writing my resume is I noticed I would use like the same action verbs over and over again, just like in different sections. So I'd just like copy and paste it and throw it into like a thesaurus, and then just switched it up so it sounds like refreshing.
And also, just to add on to that as well, there's a couple of links at UC Merced supplies as well, and then I believe we also have it in our resource channel, or in our resource slide. But they have a whole list of action verbs that can have different meanings. So whether it be for systems, for IT, for administration, anything you want to do, like there's a whole list that you can use. So um, take advantage of it. Make sure not to repeat it, and even if it doesn't sound like you did some of those things, I mean, you in a sense did, like assembled and integrated. So that was my example on my internship that I did. I didn't really assemble a database. I just more like put pieces together, but technically that's like assembling. So like stuff like that really makes you stand out. So don't feel afraid and have imposter syndrome like, oh, maybe I'm not that good enough to put assembled, or I did this or I did that. Just put it on your resume. It's fine. Like you just keep putting action verbs and you'll be great.
Sure. And yeah, so just like some pointers, just like stuff that we've collectively have seen and we want to like address in the slide. So like talking about addresses, right? No physical addresses. So common thing that I see on resumes a lot is that people will have like their address and unless the company is like gonna drive over and like hand you the job like certification or whatever, they really don't have a whole lot of need for your physical address. And like let's be realistic, right? Like if one of us lands a job like out of high school or out of college, we're probably gonna have to move to that job anyways. And those are things that you have to talk with your recruiter once you uh, like have to sign off on your contract and stuff like that. Long story short, there's no need for an address on your resume. And the other thing is objectives. Um, so like I know like some resumes people will have like their header and it'll have like objective, like obtain a like industry level internship to like show off my skills or whatever. And if you really think about it, if you're applying for a job, what is your objective? Let's be honest. Your objective is to get paid. So, um, right? You want, and if you want to like word it nicer, you want to get experience, right? You want to get experience somewhere so you can hopefully apply to another job or move up the ranks. So, unless you have a very particular objective to why you want to apply to that very specific company or very specific role, you're usually better off just using that space that you would use for an objective for like another project or a job you were doing. Um, yeah, and so and and if you really like really wanted to like talk about why you want to go into that specific company, you can put that in the cover letter. And so cover letters are optional. Um, they're not going to hurt your chances, but they're usually used if you have like a very like strong interest in that company. It allows you to kind of like elaborate. Um, and so I think me being a second year, I'm kind of biased. So when I was starting at Merced, when I was applying for internships and stuff like that, which by the way, if you're first or second year, apply to internships even if you don't feel like you're qualified. I definitely did not feel qualified, and you just get lucky. And that's like all I can say. So keep applying. Um, but when you're first and second year entering college, I know it feels kind of daunting. And there's always times like imposter syndrome, like Ryan said. So don't feel bad if you have high school stuff when you apply the resume or internships and stuff like that, because realistically, like recruiters aren't gonna expect you to have like a startup your like second semester of college. Like it's like crazy. So don't feel bad, but I would say if you're a third and fourth year, really try to steer away from those high school experiences because once you talk to recruiters, they're gonna ask you stuff you did in college, right? Like what you learned in college, what clubs you joined, rather than stuff you did in high school. Because I don't know about you guys, but high school me and college me are completely different people. So
They build different.
yeah, we built different boys. But yeah, just try to steer away from that when you're third or fourth year. Um, and I think another thing too is like fill up as much space as possible. Uh, like your resume is your ticket into that company, right? So you want to put as much information that you can to sell yourself, which sounds really bad, but like sell yourself to the company, right? Like hire me, please. So try to put as much information as you can while keeping it concise. That's like the important thing. Keep it concise, but make sure you're putting as much information as possible. Um, and then just like some general things is like save it as a PDF. I know recruiters really hate it when someone submits like a docx file or whatever. And like if you're using stuff all like on Linux or whatever, I know Busher can talk about Linux a whole lot, but it messes up the way it's parsed. So just submit as a PDF, do yourself a favor, and then also have like a naming convention for your resume. So when you're submitting your resume, try to put your first name, maybe like an underscore, last name, and like resume. Um, but try not to have like resume 1 2 3 4 5 or resume edited or stuff like that. Try to keep it professional because recruiters do notice those things and they do take that into account. And I think another thing too that I've noticed and I've talked to people in the industry, and I think it's like an idea I never really had personally, and I think it's really good, is having a master document of all your experiences. Um, and so by that, what I mean is like on your resume, right? Over time, you'll have to like remove like a section and then like replaced it. And maybe when you're applying for a different job, you could have used that section that talked about like app development or something, and you probably forgot what you wrote, so you'll have to like retype it again, right? And that's kind of like a waste of time if you think about it. So what's really helpful for me personally is having the master document of everything you've done, even if it's like a small like tidbit or whatever. Have it on a master document, so when you're applying for a job and they're asking specifically for like app development, right? You can go to your master document, see what you have, and then just copy and paste it over. And then you already have those sections like just ready to go. And it saves you so much time. Um, because when you're applying for a job, right, hopefully you have enough experience in different areas to the point where you can just like copy paste and submit it, and do that for like 5 hours a day. Not really, but like you get my point. um and even if you don't have like, even if you don't feel like you're qualified for the job, just apply. Like the worst thing that you'll get is a no. um you're selling yourself short by not applying. um and I know sometimes it's kind of difficult, but what I do is like I'll be watching basketball, right? Like watching the Lakers lose yesterday, and then I'll just be applying on the side. I'll do like 2 or 3 applications, and there you go. And over time, you'll hear back, and then you'll slowly improve. It's like a snowball effect. Um, and then like I have to reiterate, keep it at 1 page, keep it concise. I know a lot of people like to talk about themselves a lot, kind of like Ryan, but you really want to keep it only 1 page, not like 5 pages, because I've seen people have like a whole book of like 20 pages of like what they've done, and a recruiter's not gonna look through it, dude. You're not a best-selling author, so like just 1 page. And then the other thing too is like, I know I've been talking a lot, but no profile pictures. When you see like resume templates online, you'll notice a lot of them have like a profile picture. It looks all nice and it looks so cute, right? But the problem with like a profile picture is that companies are really committed to, at least they say, they're committed to having a hiring process that doesn't have any biases. Because the more you go into like tech, even like with AI, having like an internal bias is always a problem for like developers and like companies. So companies really want to give people from different backgrounds and different like, just like different, I guess, to reiterate, like different backgrounds, like the same opportunity, right? So if you have like a picture of yourself, someone can be internally biased in a good or bad way, which is a big reason why companies don't like it when you have a profile picture. They'll just like discard you. Um, and also like if you ever print it, it looks horrible. I don't know about you guys, but my printer quality is horrendous. So just don't put a profile picture. The companies care about what you offer and your experience above anything else. And yeah.
All right. So next, we're going to touch briefly on the ATS, or applicant tracking system. So an ATS is a human resource software that allows employers to organize a large number of applicant resumes. So this is a pretty automated system, and that includes a resume parser, depending on what they're using. And the unfortunate reality becomes sometimes your resumes are parsed, graded, and then accepted or rejected before a human could read it. So you do need to take some special care in order to avoid getting rejected right off the bat. Namely, you want to use a clean and text-based resume. So like, don't use graphics to show off your level of skill or like try to be fancy like that. You want to typically have a single column or like one-way flow of information. Don't do like a side column. Don't do anything running in parallel vertically is bad. That'll like mess up the parser. The parser also checks for the common section headers, so like experiences, education, projects. So make sure you use them and make sure you're not like using some weird form of it. And finally, submit it as a PDF. Again, it's pretty universal, so anything will be able to read it.
And yeah, so just to wrap up, we want to provide some resources we found along the way. So if you guys have your phone or you want a screenshot, this is probably the thing you want to screenshot. Not a whole lot of links, but basically when you're making a resume, you want to use like a word processor, like you said, Paulo said, right? So something like Google Doc, Microsoft Word. I personally use Overleaf, which is like a LaTeX thing online. And so the cool thing about Overleaf, which is like what I use, is they have a bunch of different templates you can find online, and you can just find one online and really just adjust it to your needs. So change, like, you can just delete the name. Maybe you don't like the way how the font looks. You can make one from scratch, but you don't have to. A recruiter is gonna like look at your resume and be like, "Wow, you made this from scratch. Here's a 120K job offer." Like, they're gonna care about the experience. So yeah, we have the LaTeX resume site. It's pretty neat. You can just grab templates and adjust it in LaTeX. The other one too, I'm not sure if Ryan can pull it up, was the LinkedIn Learning like certifications. Those are super helpful if you guys have some free time this semester, or like during spring break, maybe you want to learn how to make a web app or something. You can do that all through LinkedIn, and it looks really good on your LinkedIn. You learn a skill, you can add it to your resume. It's like a win-win. You lose like nothing. It's free too, I think. Uh, so yeah, those are some resources we wanted to provide. And then I think Ryan wanted to go into the resume review section.
Yeah. I also just wanted to let everybody know I put in that LinkedIn Learning website on the chat itself. So if you click on that, you guys can check it out. And before we go, we're just gonna review some resumes just so you guys kind of have some idea of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and pros and cons and tips and all that good stuff. So we're just gonna go right in. So we're gonna go and travel back to Jet 2019 and look at his first resume ever. Don't worry, it's not as bad as you guys think, but
Nothing
there's a
to
couple of
roast me.
things. There's a couple of things that are good and bad here. First off, he does have his email, his LinkedIn, and his GitHub, so that's great. The recruiter is going to know how to see their work and see their LinkedIn and their professional skills, all that stuff. He has his education there when he begins and when he ends. Again, that's kind of personal, up to you. And you'll see what I mean later. He has notable coursework, past, fall, and spring. But as you can see there, it's really kind of open and it's not condensed. You could have fit that maybe 1 to 2 lines. And also, if you look at the technical skill table, it takes up way too much space. So again, you're not going to cheat anybody by saying, "Oh yeah, look at this cool table I made, but I only have like a year experience in like C++." No one's going to be really fooled by that. So you want to make sure that when you're writing into your resume, you're putting in information that's useful and you're not trying to be flashy. But everything else seems to be pretty good in this resume experience. There's a couple of things that he could 2019 Jet could have done, such as put a little more information. So like the action verbs and the bullet points are good, but they like depth, or detail. So like, for example, implement a web scraper using Python to collect data for the project. He probably could have put more information, exactly what was being done with the functions he's created and so forth. And they're only just like, 1 line bullet points, and it doesn't seem like it goes in depth. And there's a whole lot of white space in here. So I'm pretty sure he could have gone back to that project, seen other things that he implemented, and also put it on that information just to kind of show the recruiter what he is like done in the past. So now we're going to go and jump back to the present and look at his next resume, which is in 2021. And you can just already looking at this, there's already a minimal white space compared to the previous resume. Again, he has his information, his email, his GitHub, his LinkedIn, and his phone number is optional as well. But here, it fits the criteria when it comes to the ATS. So if you were to submit this to a recruiter, the system will be able to read it, and it'll be a lot much more easier for it to understand once a recruiter gets it. Again, the technical skills, it's condensed, it's much more organized and straight to the point, no fancy table or anything like that. And again, the bullet points are still very specific, but you can see there's a lot more detail to the accomplishments he made. Again, this is not a perfect resume. Of course, there might be some pros and cons here depending on how you see it, but this is such a way better improvement compared to the past resume. So this was great. So round of applause for Jet for improving 2 years in a row. Good job. Good for you. And then we're going to go on to the next resume, right? But lo and behold, I'm just letting you know it's really bad. So
Oh yeah, I'm so
we're
excited.
gonna we're gonna go back to 2013 me and see my first resume ever, and it's really bad. Um, there's a weird design template. I don't know why there's an orange square on the top right. Some random template I found. I thought it would be like artsy. So that's already a bad sign. I have my address there that I've clearly censored for you guys not to see. So that's really bad. I had my email, but I was using this resume to apply for tech internships. So, where's my GitHub? Where's my LinkedIn? There's nothing professional. Again, with the objectives, it's great. I'm showing that like I want to be able to be a big asset and fast learner and stuff like that. But, I could have really just included that in my cover letter. So that was unnecessary. And then I go into like my experience. And it's great. I had a job and that's about it. I had responsibilities and I was able to maintain them. It doesn't really explain what I could have done. And just reading that paragraph, the recruiter is just going to read it. And maybe by the second paragraph, they're going to be over it. They're not going to want to be reading it anymore. It's too much information. And I'm not really getting to the point of the things I need to be focusing on. And as well with education, that could have been done differently. I could have made that my priority first and then made my experience second. References is it's okay. That's something you can just write on your online form. So don't have that. So, it took me over like 7 years to get to where I'm at now to have my better resume. And as you can see, it's well more flushed in. There's a lot of bold letters. It also has a lot more organization when it comes to the resume itself. It's condensed. There's actual skills and coursework. And as you can see, like I immediately go into my tech skills. So C++, C, SQLite 3, Java, Linux, everything and so forth. And towards the end, I enter one of my soft skills, which is being bilingual. I put my GPA as well. I put my degrees that I've earned, where I'm currently going to school. And as you can see, like with the projects, I actually have my projects hyperlinked, which I recommend you guys doing. So when the recruiter clicks on it, it automatically takes you to the GitHub repo, which in my personal opinion, a lot of recruiters have told me they like that, but it's up to you guys on how you want to do it. But more importantly, just if you look at the actual information of the experiences I've had, it's very flush. It's very in depth on like the tasks that I had and the accomplishments I made for these companies that I worked at. You also want to make sure that you put the time of which you worked. And again, I was mentioning this earlier, but every resume is tailored to however you see fit. So personally, I thought having leadership experience would be a good standpoint to put on my resume. So I've put all the leadership experience I've had throughout the years that I was in school. And then I talked a little bit about more of what I did there and how I founded some clubs and stuff like that. But you mainly want to put more of the detail in your actual experience other than your leadership experience, because leadership is great and all, but we already know you have leadership. We want to see more of what you can bring on a technical level, right? And if you see under the volunteering information, I was kind of running out of stuff to put on. I put on as much as I thought I can. So I put more on the volunteering information to show that I can also work with the team and be able to do, volunteer work if I needed to. And I put my achievements, my affiliations, and, the reason why I did all this is just to have little to no white space, which is a good thing. So kind of keep that in mind. You want to make sure you want to have your resume kind of looking like this. And again, like Jet was saying earlier, even if you feel like, you have like that imposter syndrome, just keep typing away. I remember one of my housemates here, he got me on a laptop and he would not let me leave the table unless I had all of my resume filled in. And I just kept telling myself, I don't know what to put on. I don't know what to put on. Like, what can I put on? And he just said, everything you've done, even if it was like doing one single task that you think is irrelevant, put it on there and try to make it so it makes sense. And lo and behold, I was able to fill out that whole resume. So, keep trying to put as much as you can. And if you kind of have it like this is definitely going to be good for when it comes to recruiters and for the ATS system as well. So yeah, thanks for hearing me rant for a little bit.
Ryan, there was a
There's-
question.
Yeah, there's questions.
Oh, there was a question. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Did you use Overleaf or Word for that resume?
Oh, so this resume itself, I actually did it completely myself in Microsoft Word itself. So I didn't use LaTeX or anything like that, just because I didn't know about LaTeX yet, or not too much of it when I was doing it. So I did it in Word. Can you put GME Investor under achievements? So any questions that are relevant?
Just to point out, you can use any like text editor you want. You can use Word, LaTeX, or anything. It's just
Anything.
that when you save, or you can like export it as PDF. So the whole idea of PDF is that it doesn't matter what you use. It's all going to be the same. So
Yeah. And you want to make sure that it is a PDF. You don't want to overly. Thank you, Jet. Yeah, kind of like what Busher was saying. As long as it's a PDF, doesn't matter where it comes from. All it matters is that the documentation ends up being a PDF format.
Can I add a little bit on what you had to say, like write as much as possible? If you could go on slide on the, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, but like usually what I do to like actually write enough, but not too much, is to first write a like almost a 3-page resume. And then once I'm ready to like, finalize it, I just do budget cuts. So like now you start cutting, like, I think this is not relevant to what I'm applying to. And then just keep going like that until like I get to a point where now I have like a 1-page resume.
That's a really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, you can condense all the information into
Yeah,
one
that's
page.
it's like a better way of like explaining like what the master document is supposed to be.
Yep.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah. Plus sometimes it gets like a little bit too like really hard to just fit everything in just a single page,
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, does anybody else have any other questions? Well, if not, thank you for coming to our resume workshop. Feel free to follow us both, ACM and Cassie, on the links down below. It doesn't seem to have the Discord link. If you want to just put that for ACM Jet, just in case for anybody else. Certifications over personal projects. Personally, I would say personal projects would be a bit more important, just because although certifications is great, I mean, I think anybody can learn to do C++, but if you're to show like an actual project that you've done working with C++, that seems a bit more specific. Oh, yeah, exactly what Busher just said. Yeah, it seems more specific, and I think that really shows like your skills, and that's what the recruiters are looking for.
Yeah, and I think I think to add on to that, I think it really depends, because I know Busher probably has more knowledge than me, but I know for like cybersecurity in particular, like they value certifications a lot. Like if you have like a Cisco certification or whatever, and you want to go into cybersecurity, I know they look into that too. But yeah, you should definitely have at least like I'd say like at least 2 personal projects. Even if it's a school project, I think we didn't really talk about that, but like you can put school projects, like if all you have is your CSC like 21 labs, like in the cheese shop labs, just add it in there. Like obviously that doesn't want to, ideally like that shouldn't be what the only thing you apply with, but you gotta start somewhere. So that's all you've done so far, just throw it on there. And the really cool thing about like I think computer science, kind of like a little tangent, is like it really helps if you know people in the industry or people that have a job. And the only way you know people in like if you like in the industry is if you reach your hand out first. So like really like applying or like talking to like all these recruiters, they really do help you, because I know for me, like that's how I was able to get my internship. It's just like I just like would like message like recruiters on LinkedIn. I just message them everything. When we had like the career fair like on campus, I would like I was gonna say pull up to the recruiter, but I would just like walk to the recruiter and hand them my resume and be like, can you give me any feedback? Some of them would say, no, we can't do that. And some of the recruiters would be like, yeah, okay, this looks good. Maybe you can improve on this. And that's kind of how, like, for me personally, I was able to kind of change my resume. And I definitely I think that like changing my resume was a big reason why I was able to like hear back from companies more. Since I was able to put more content, and then over time you get more experience, hopefully. Already being like a club in like ACM or Cassie is already a good step in that direction. So
And just to kind of add on to Jet, if we go back to the actual resume that I had here, most of these projects are all school based. Nachos, if you've taken CSE 150, that's one of the projects. Merge sort, you guys learned that in 100. Hash table, SQLite database, all these things I learned from school. So don't feel afraid, if you don't have time for a personal project. Like, we get it. Sometimes you're just too busy to really set time aside. But if you can show that if you've done some work that you can share, and that's one thing I got to iterate, you have to make sure whatever you're sharing is something that can be public and not private. So let's just say if you're working with a project that you're working on and then you're not supposed to share it to anybody, make sure it's like private. And then if the recruiter wants to see more, then that's fine. You can show them. But just keep that in mind. And then again, like Jet was saying, go to the hackathons, or go to all those things, and you can put them as your personal project. Me and Jet just recently went to a hackathon, and we made our own website and this whole thing that you guys can check out, vfit.tech/record. It's our website. Go check it out. But yeah, stuff like that really just you want to like put on your resume, and it makes you stand out a lot more if you have even just a small project than like no project at all.
yeah, I think to add on to like the sharing like your code, unless like your employer makes you sign like an NDA, which is like a non-disclosable like agreement or something like that. I don't know. But an NDA basically means you can't like share any source code outside of like the work. So if you're working for like a small company, they'll make you sign one, and you have the ability to share that code. And yeah, I think like to like piggyback off what like what Ryan said with like the hackathons. I think for me when I was starting off in Merced, I think like my friend group and I we just went to like all the hackathons we could just to get that experience. But also like I know like being on campus feels like so long ago, but like at actual hackathons like in person, there would be like recruiters from like Google or from like another company just like chilling there. And so I remember when I like went to my first hackathon in high school, like as a senior, I like went up to every single recruiter and I handed them my resume and I asked them, what do you think? What can I do? Or I would just like talk about what they did. I was like a senior. I didn't have no clue what Google Cloud used to do. But then like the recruiters are super nice people. You just know how to like talk. And I know for like some CS majors, like I don't know, like Ryan, kind of more reserved. No, actually, no, Ryan's not reserved. But
I was about to say.
some people tend to be more reserved, and it's harder to do. But I feel like it's one of those things you just get better at over time. But like in person, you could talk to recruiters, and you can at least form like a connection, right? And so like I would ask them to add me on LinkedIn, or I'd ask them to like keep my resume, and it's like I would like message those same people like 2-3 months later asking, hey, any open jobs or any advice. And it's really building that connections what really helps you get that next step. And yeah, I think so we're about to hit an hour. But I think it's been a really productive conversation, a good workshop in my opinion. But yeah, before we end it, does anyone have any other questions? Like, we're here to help you guys. So if people need to go, like, feel free. But
yeah. And if you guys don't come up with any questions, you can always feel free to hit us up on either Cassie or ACM, and we can look at your resume. Nabir, we do offer resume feedback at Cassie, and I believe at ACM as well. Feel free to message either me or Jet, and we'll be able to sit down and look at your resume and just give you some tips on what you can improve.
Yeah, so on the ACM Discord in particular, we have a I think it's, let me check Discord right now. I can't remember off the top of my head. We have a lot of channels. I believe there's a like a career site. Paula, correct me if I'm wrong. There's like a man. I really can't find it.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
sorry,
a
it's under
section-
career,
yeah.
and it says resume review.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of like resumes there. So I always try to post something under career. That's another thing too. Like if you guys are looking for internships to apply to, I occasionally like will drop some job postings on there. So whenever you guys have like some free time, you can always just go on the ACM Discord and see like what I posted. It's like 2-3 internships you can apply to in between Zoom classes or something. But yeah, you can always DM me or Paulo or really any ACM officer, and we'll be more than willing to give you resume advice.
Is there any other questions before we head off here and enjoy the weekend?
Can I have free food?
Go join the Hackmer set, bro. And
You win. Just like $150 of DoorDash credit. So
Yingshi, yes, there is a web project that's still happening, I believe, for ACM. And
What?
then they just also had their recent workshop with React Native. Or I might be wrong. What do you what's going on, Jet?
Like what do you can you clarify like the school web project? Like the website or which project in particular?
The ACM website, right?
I
No,
think
it's
she's
the
talking
guy's
about
name.
the
I don't
I
know.
think she's talking about the ECM website.
Yeah, it's
Right,
still
Yingshi?
going on.
Oh.
In the Discord channel, there's a sub channel
Mm.
dedicated for it.
There's only one project. Well, currently the ACM website, it's kind of like there's been no interest for it. We used to have like 5 people working on it, and like over time, people just have like graduated and dipped the project, which is fine. So right now the current project is like AFK. I guess if you want to, it is for the UCM. Maybe it's a business society project you're talking about. But the current project or the projects we used to have were the Discord bot, the ACM website, and like that was really it. Like
There
that
was
we
a
had.
Flappy Bird one too, right?
There's a Flappy Bird
A
one that
while
was like
back,
on
yeah.
campus, yeah.
And the robot as well.
Yeah, and then we had a personal projects like website workshop, but yeah, outside of that, we were pretty limited on projects. We kind of shifted more towards like SIGs, which are special interest groups, which they kind of host their own workshops, and hopefully we're trying to move towards like having the SIGs make their own projects throughout the semester. But yeah, I'm not too sure like what it is you're referring to, but yeah, if you DM me or oh, was it the GPA calculator? I think that was probably it. No? Damn.
Are they talking
No,
about
I
like
think-
the actual website or like the My Connect?
Yeah, I think that's not what ECM was doing.
Okay,
yet.
no,
That
no.
would be something
Yeah.
separate that UCM
Yeah,
does.
that's separate. Yeah.
We what ECM was doing was making their own website. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we're just gonna wrap it up here. Again, if you have any more questions, feel free to message either me, Paulo, or Jet, and we'll more than happily be willing to help you guys out. So thanks for everybody who joined us. Appreciate you guys coming, and y'all have a great weekend. Even though I know some of you guys had a bad one. David,
Oh my god.
thanks, brother. Have a nice weekend, guys. Peace out.
Bye, y'all.
Bye bye.
Good night, everybody.